Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, martes el 30 de enero. No homework due for today. No homework due for Thursday. Just remember, probably want to start beginning to work on your Chapter 2A elective assessment. Remember that is due in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from this Friday. 2 weeks from this Friday, Friday the 16th of February. Worth 40 points, similar to what you guys did in quarter 2. You're highlighting this time 20 parts to your day or your week or weekend, whatever increment of time. And then in doing so, you're capturing vocabulary as it relates to your daily routine, your class schedule, your hobbies and interests. The vocabulary we're going to begin going over today in Chapter 3A with regard to errands that you run and chores that you have to do, things we do on a day-to-day basis, 20 of those activities, and then the conjugations in the preterite, or the simple past tense. So you're demonstrating your proficiency of both regular and irregular conjugations. This can be done as a poster, it can be done as a flip book, video, TikTok, whatnot, certainly a Google slide or a PowerPoint. You have an example here and here to see some student samples. It's, again, very similar to what you guys did in quarter 2 for your daily routine project. The main differences are the grammar is going to be the past tense, and then also you need to include at least one example of each point of view. So if your project from second quarter was predominantly in the first person, in the yo form, you're going to want to capture all points of view. So at least one example in the tú form, in the él, ella form, the nosotros form, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. Of course, vosotros, the second person plural, you are never tasked to do. So that's your Chapter 2 AB elective assessment, 20 parts to your weekend, 20 highlights, if you will, to your weekend or just a typical weekday. All right, what we're going to do today, your warm-up question is, ¿Qué hiciste para ayudar en casa? Asking, what did you do recently to help around the house? You guys are going to use the vocabulary that we looked at last Friday on page 126. Things we do in our room, in the kitchen, in la cocina, throughout the home, en otros cuartos, fuera de la casa, outside the home, and then in various parts of the community. You guys have all these verbs translated into English, so pick 3 of them and express them in the past tense, and also use those time markers that we looked at the end of last quarter. Time markers such as esta mañana, this morning, anoche, last night, ayer, yesterday, or la semana pasada, last week, etc. Use those time markers to say how recently you did those 3 things to help around the home. So for example, anoche yo cociné la cena. Last night I made dinner. Or esta mañana yo arreglé el cuarto. This morning I cleaned my room. Or la semana pasada, last week, mi familia y yo, nosotros trabajamos en el jardín. So pick 3 activities that you or you and your family have done recently to help out. Conjugate those activities in the past tense and use one of those time markers from page 111 to say how recently you did those. That is your warm-up question for today. ¿Qué hiciste para ayudar en casa? What did you do to help para ayudar at home? We're going to review the notes on page 152. This is where we left off last class. You guys organized these notes in the end of your notebooks, at the end of last class. Vocabulary as it relates to errands we run in the community. Places we go. So you have locations there. Activities and places that we associate with errands we run in the community. And really it was this left column that was most important that you guys took down in your notes. And the top right-hand corner, that vocabulary. These useful words and expressions and the preterite, you don't need to add that in your notes. It's kind of an ancillary. So utilizing that vocabulary, we are going to read the script on pages 132 and 133, complete the comprehension questions, and do some vocabulary and use practice activities. None of this is doing Canvas. This is to prepare you for your quiz on Chapter 3A, and then also to familiarize you with the vocabulary and the grammar so that you can utilize it in your project, your Chapter 2AB project due in 2 weeks. And the whole intent of Chapter 3A, if we take a look at the key terms or in the unit objectives, is to get you guys to be able to listen and read about where people went, what they did, and things that they received. This is what we're going to do in the reading comprehension section of today's agenda, to talk and write about whether you fulfilled certain obligations, so the errands that you ran and what you did in the past, and exchange that information about whether you did certain things you had to do. So again, errands that we need to run on a day-to-day basis. Culture-wise, understanding the popularity of open-air markets, very popular in the Spanish-speaking world, and compare landmarks and famous buildings, monuments in Spanish-speaking countries with those in the United States. The vocabulary, as we've seen, is the running of errands around town, where people go, and what people buy. The main grammar, we've seen a little bit of direct object pronouns. The main focus is irregular past tense conjugations. So not following the pattern that we looked at the beginning of the semester, but having their own irregular past tense endings. And we're going to look at these 6 verbs. Ir and ser, which actually share the same conjugations in the past. And then the verb hacer, tener, estar, and poder. The verb to do, to have, to be, and to be able to. So let's take a look. Here you have all the vocabulary laid out with pictures, so you can compare that vocab to the vocabulary that you outlined in your notes last class. And on page 132 and 33, you have the script. I'm going to play the video since I'll be out this afternoon, and hoping that you guys watch the video. I want to make sure that you have the video available to you, the one that corresponds with this script. So you can title this activity in your notebooks, ¿Qué hiciste esta mañana? And then here are the comprehension questions you guys are going to answer. Los 4 jóvenes tienen planes para la tarde. ¿A dónde piensan ir? The 4 friends featured in this video have plans for the afternoon. ¿A dónde piensan ir? Where are they thinking of going? You're going to find that answer in the script. Antes de ver a Ramón y Manolo, ¿cuáles son las 3 cosas que Teresa tuvo que hacer? Before seeing Ramón and Manolo, what are the 3 things that Teresa had to do? So we're looking for errands, right? Verbs that we would associate with particular places in the community. Number 3, ¿por qué entró Teresa en el correo? Why did Teresa go into the post office? Number 4, ¿qué se le olvidó a Teresa? What did Teresa lose, or forget, rather? What did she forget to do? There's actually a couple possibilities for question number 4. Number 5, ¿a dónde fueron Ramón y Manolo por la mañana? Where did Ramón and Manolo go in the morning? And then, ¿a dónde decidieron ir antes de ir al cine? Where did the group decide to go before going to the movie theater? So running that back, the 4 friends have plans for the afternoon. Where are they thinking of going? What are the 3 things that Teresa had to do? 3 errands she had to run before seeing Ramón and Manolo. Why did Teresa enter the post office? What did Teresa forget? where did Ramon and Manolo go in the morning? And where did the group decide to go before going to the movies? You're going to find the answer in the script as we've seen. So for example, where are they planning on going? What are their plans, the group? They plan on going to the movies. Claudia says in box 1, tenemos que darnos prisa. We have to rush. Manolo y Ramón nos esperan. They're waiting for us a las 2, at 2 o'clock, para ir al cine, to go to the movies. So if we want to set up number 1, the response, los 4 jóvenes, the 4 friends, and then piensan ir, they're thinking of going. Los 4 jóvenes piensan ir, and then the answer, al cine. Los 4 jóvenes piensan ir al cine. All right, so go looking for those answers in the text. You'll find the answers all throughout the script in boxes 1 through 8. And then after that, we are going to do exercises 4 and 5 to give you guys a little bit of an opportunity to use this vocabulary in context. So page 134, damos un vistazo. Página 134, vocabulario en uso. To talk about places in your community is the objective, for you guys to be able to talk about what you had to do and couldn't do over the weekend, to list a list of errands and chores that we would associate with particular places and the errands that we have to do there. And this ties into your project because that's what you guys are going to do, right? Talking about what you had to do and what you did over the course of a day or weekend or a week or what have you. All right, so exercise 4 is going to be a T-chart where you're going to write los lugares on the left-hand side. Lugares in Spanish, or in English rather, is locations. So using the pictures here, there are 8 different locations at the bottom of page 134. Identify the names of each of these locations in Spanish. So for example, el supermercado, or this first one here, la tienda de equipo deportivo, the sporting goods store. Okay, so list all the different locations on the left, the ones that are pictured at the bottom of page 134. And then on the right-hand side, where it says tengo que, I have to, or I must, identify an errand or thing that you have to do, or would do, at each of those locations. So for example, al supermercado, tengo que comprar leche. I have to buy milk at the supermarket. La tienda de equipo deportivo, could also use the verb comprar. And then again, take a look at the key vocabulary at the end of the chapter. On page 152, you have this all laid out in your notes as well. What's one thing that you have to do at the sporting goods store? Well, tengo que comprar, you could say la pelota de béisbol, or tengo que comprar el palo de golf, or whatever. Una camiseta nueva, unos zapatos, a pair of shoes, anything that you typically or maybe have recently purchased at a sporting goods store. You got a lot of the vocab on page 152 to help you out with that. Next one, la farmacia, tengo que comprar shampoo, comprar el cepillo de dientes, comprar la pasta dental, whatever it is that you typically pick up at the pharmacy. All right, so that's activity 4, listing the locations pictured here, the very bottom of page 134, and then the errands or activities we would associate with each. Exercise 5 really isn't meant to be written. It's meant to be a conversation between you and your table partner, where you can utilize this model and the list that you've created for exercise 4 to have a conversation about what it is you need to do and where you needed to do each of those activities, or errands rather. So for example, tengo que comprar cereal. ¿A qué hora is asking at what time. ¿A qué hora se abre el supermercado? So I have to buy cereal. What time does the supermarket open? So you're using the locations and the errands to fill in the errand and the location for the question in part A. Say what you have to do, and then ask at what time the corresponding location opens. Se abre, your partner will respond by saying se abre, and then using the times that are provided at the bottom of page 134, indicate the time that that place opens, se abre, and the time that it closes, se cierra. So for example, tengo que comprar cereal. ¿A qué hora se abre el supermercado? Which is over here in the bottom left-hand corner. Se abre el supermercado. Se abre a las 8 de la mañana. Se abre a las 8 de la mañana. And then, ¿a qué hora se cierra? ¿A qué hora se cierra? What time does it close? Creo que se cierra a las 11 de la noche. So if we do the pharmacy, for example, tengo que comprar el cepillo de dientes, right? A la farmacia. Tengo que comprar el cepillo de dientes. ¿A qué hora se abre la farmacia? Taking a look at the information here. Se abre a las 6 de la mañana. ¿Y a qué hora se cierra? What time does it close? Creo que se cierra a las 10 de la noche. Real good practice, exercise 5, kind of summarizing the information that you laid out in the T-chart and putting it together within the context of a conversation to talk about places we go in the community, the errands we run, and then a little bit of a review of time. Talking about the opening time, se abre, and the closing time, se cierra. So that is the last activity we'll do together. Again, that's exercises 4 and 5 on page 134. 4 should go in your notebooks. 5, maybe you need to write out the first couple, but really the intention is to have a conversation. No homework for Thursday, just to continue to work on your Chapter 2AB project.